drawn into these good vibrations. Is right in front of you. Everything that you can give will only be returned to you. Have you ever found the sunset? It's full of hope and answers. Let yourself go free and be drawn into these good vibrations. There is nothing here that's not in constant change. This can comes with something.
Thank you so much, everybody. As you know, we've been joined by the Honorable Minister for Petroleum and Natural Gas and Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. I'm going to request ESD Nagpurwala, our CEO for KPMG in India, to formally welcome Minister.
I'll just wait for a couple of seconds for people to settle down. Good afternoon, friends and dignitaries. It's my pleasure to welcome Shri Hardeep Singh Puri, Minister of Petroleum and Natural Gas and Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. It is our honor, Minister Sir, to welcome you to this event. I recall last year, you were with us and you made certain observations. We have acted upon them. This year, we await for some more observations from you. One of them I recall was the air conditioning should not be very cold. But with that, sir, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you. And I hand it back to Anish.
Thank you, ESD. No, we will not hear from me. We will hear from Honorable Minister. But I just want to say a couple of things. He's been really a guiding force for us. And some of you have been at the India Energy Week. That event of that magnitude can't be done without that kind of long vision, long-range vision. And he's given us the vision. Lots of things which I'm sure he'll talk about, which are transforming India in the decarbonization journey, but also keeping us secure in terms of energy supplies, because we know that energy security is super important. Personally, a few of us visiting him yesterday at his office, 6 of us, including 5 colleagues from across the world, we absolutely enjoyed that interaction. And we are really privileged that he gave us a signed copy of his first book. So thank you, sir. And please, sir, you can speak from here or there, whichever way you prefer, sir.
Thank you very much. The comment on the air conditioning, I suspect, was made at a time when there was a feeling around that the global energy markets could do with less consumption. But I suspect that comment made then is perhaps equally valid today. I mean, my friend Anish and you are wearing suits, and even if they're not woolen suits, I think they are better protection. But no, I did go to, I think it was Gastech, or was it Davos? Gastech. And the European friends had decided that they were going to provide a robust response to what was happening between Russia and Ukraine. And they were anticipating a cold winter, so they decided, at least in the summer, to cut down their energy consumption, and the air conditioners were acting partially as heaters. So I think that comment of mine may have been made at that point of time here at that time. But thank you very much for inviting me to your 14th edition of the flagship event, Innovation and Energy Conclave. When I read your title, Enrich, and your theme, I believe, is growing with less. And I thought I should start by complimenting you on getting the theme right and having it put in such clear, sharp, short focus. I think the problems that we face today as a global community, and I'll come to India subsequently, those are too well known to require repetition. I think the discussion I had with your colleagues yesterday in a more informal setting I suspect some of the things I said then could perhaps don't merit being reported in a larger thing with my friends from the fourth estate around. I say that to them when their cameras and recorders are not on. But I think a good starting point in acknowledging what we are up against is to be conscious of the reality. We are facing multiple crises, that's a fact. When I talk about these multiple crises, I mean the crisis in the fuel sector, in food, in fertilizer. We are also struggling globally with issues dealing with availability, affordability, and sustainability, but those issues don't present themselves in the same way that we see them. And I think for me, whenever I have a professional, accomplished gathering of successful people like this, I think it's good to start by acknowledging the differences in perspective we have. Issues of availability would be even more serious if there was a genuine shortage of energy. I think what we are up against is not shortage, but a supply side management. I mean, let me start with crude oil. The global consumption today, even if half the world is in recession, and we provide some cushion there, should be about 102 million barrels a day. Now, if you take 5, 6 or 7 million barrels out of that off the market through what are called voluntary cuts, you are producing a situation where the equilibrium has been upset because the amount available is clearly short of what the demand and the consumption is. I don't know why that is done, and I have a very simple position. I have always maintained as a proud Indian and a minister for India that it's every country's sovereign right. If you have a resource, it's your decision whether you want to extract it, use it, keep it buried all your life, and therefore we will never tell any of them what to do. But equally, I think if we are partners together, partners both in and stakeholders in the global economy, I think it's my duty to hear what you have to say and also my duty to tell you what I think will be the unintended consequences. And recently at ADIPEC, I went back to what happened in 2008, and I said then, look, in 2008, prices really shot up. The world was already in financial and economic difficulty, and when it reached astronomical prices, there was a crash, and the rest is there. And then I quoted a man who I said is not so popular now, but his name is Karl Marx, and he said, Hegel once famously wrote, history repeats itself, but he should have added, first time is tragedy, second time is farce. Now, when we witnessed the recent turbulence, everybody said, my God, we are again facing, prices going through the roof, at least settling in above 100. I was a skeptic even then, as I continue to be a skeptic now, because my belief is, if you really understand what's happening in the world, and I'm glad I'm talking to an audience as enlightened and as well researched as this, that if you already have a large amount of liquidity brought about by stimulus packages available, and all those interest rates hikes which you have utilized, and you've still not been able to mop up that liquidity, then high oil prices means problem. It means it will go up and then demand will fall. So I want to conclude that by saying that I personally think half the world is in recession and the other half is flirting with the recession. If you look at the global statistics, India, according to the Monetary Fund's latest, we are growing at 6.3%. I think it will be more if you look at the first quarter's results, etc. But many of the important countries which contribute cumulatively to assessing global growth are showing worrying signs. And I'm not going to go into name calling. Therefore, from our point of view, availability has to be looked at. Affordability, if you look at the equation which I've just outlined, affordability is very much part of that availability. Because if you release more oil, you already have oil from one Latin American country which is under sanction, another country in the Gulf or Middle East which is sanctioned. And if you take the existing oil and you remove large parts of it through voluntary cuts, then it will go up, but affordability has to be looked at. From our point of view, the most important thing is that is one of the we have the largest population, I think now. I shouldn't use the word one of the largest. We also have a very dynamic population. Our rate of growth in energy is 3 times the global average. So what I would say is that for us, affordability is crucial. We've navigated it so far, and I think we'll be able to do so in future, irrespective of what happens in the future. But equally in that equation, you'll have to take into account the sensitivities of importing countries, and particularly those that are large buyers. I had the privilege of seeing an exhibition. So I want to compliment you for that. When you have a lot of entrepreneurial, innovative talent available, and somebody like KPMG comes along and you acknowledge those people, I think that acts like a booster shot to further incentivize and encouraging that. Today, India ranks 3rd globally in terms of the unicorn count and has over 100 unicorns with a combined valuation of around $350 billion. But my submission to you there is that this is just the beginning. Because as the world changes, as technology changes, as the way of thinking, the approach changes, and these moments come, I think, I should be careful in my word, very infrequently. They come seldom. You know, there was a generation which ended its study of physics by saying that the atom is indivisible. And along came the next generation which said the atom is divisible, of course with devastating consequences. So, knowledge, science, technology, they are today propelled by one very major driving force. There may be many others. And one is, I think, in the battle between man and nature, between man and mankind, between human beings and their surrounding, that battle is unfortunately being lost to the detriment of humanity. I think when I was relatively younger and we were negotiating issues relating to climate, there were a large number of skeptics. And I think in the initial phase, the skeptics actually won the war. And they said that this whole climate change is nothing but a conspiracy against, X, Y, and Z. I think they've been proved wrong. And the skeptics don't easily like to be identified today. Today the skeptics have to acknowledge that you're no longer dealing with global warming, you're dealing with boiling. And I think the pictures which go around, and that's true of about everything. You know, every age is defined in terms of what happens. I remember when the Syrian civil war was going on, there was a picture of a child washed ashore in some European place, and that captured the imagination about. Today what we see happening, similarly brutality, etc., that becomes a defining moment. But equally, when you talk about climate change and transition, I think when you have front page pictures of, rural areas in Greece burning, Arizona, Argentina, it says there's a really serious problem. So I think the transition that we are talking about has received an accelerated push on account of what's happening in the world, and therefore I want to come to India. In a world in which energy was easily available, where it was also affordable, my colleagues and I did a study that starting from the time I was in the university, we divided it into 7-year periods or 7 or 8-year periods. We chose 7 years then because the Modi government had been in office for 7 years. I think that was the compelling. And we took it to 1973, when I happily had a two-wheeler and I took the price of fuel at that point of time. And we used to take great pride in saying that the increase in prices were the lowest in terms of any 7-year period going back to 73. But today the challenge is more, and I'm glad we've been able to address that challenge. Our transition, then I've come to sustainability. Affordability we ensured because we were able to reduce central excise duty on 2 occasions, November 21 and May 22, and asked the BJP governments reduce their VAT. So you have differentials in a state like West Bengal. Petrol would be available 11 rupees 80 paise more expensive per litre than a BJP ruled state. But I can come now to what we have done in biofuels. But before that, I just want to say, just as I compliment you and through you, KPMG, on your encouragement to startups, I also want to pay a tribute to the OMCs, the PSUs of the oil and gas sector, who have created startup funds aggregating to about over 400 crores. 232 startups have been funded by oil and gas PSUs with a disbursed value of something like 208 crores already. Now, if you look at how the oil sector does, I'm not talking about just profitability, but the scale of their operation, I think it's a good start, but equally I would say that the best is still to come. Because I think what will make the crucial difference in terms of innovation, technology, is the kind of work that is done there, because the little things will be force multipliers. 2 examples of what they have done in terms of startups. I saw one startup of a chap called Bandicoot. He was a robotic scavenger, and I agreed to include him in my speaking notes today because Bandicoot was available at the India Energy Week in Bangalore. This was done by BPCL. Now what he does is to help do the manual scavenging so that, sanitary workers are not put to difficulty. We've, as a country, we are very progressive. We outlawed, we proscribed, we made manual scavenging illegal. But you can pass a law and then there's a problem in some urban area, in some odd place, some contractor will use it. So we were having these problems. So I'm glad BPCL and the others got together and we got Mr. Bandicoot in operation, and we've also done other things, but I'm just mentioning this to you as an example. Then we have IOCL has produced a complete in situ composite repair solution to all kinds of damage scenarios. If you have pipelines and something goes wrong, this again, I think 2 examples of where work done in encouraging the startup culture and specifics through help have produced excellent results. Now I want to come to some things about net zero, but before I do that, I think this year your Enrich Awards, the projects fall in the category of EVs, carbon capture, waste management, battery technology, recycling, renewable generation equipment, asset management, energy efficiency, and more. So congratulations. I think that's the entire range. I mean, everybody, any listing that you do, everybody will take one off and put the other one in as a priority. Why is this so important for India? I'll be very frank, if we are to grow, and this just doesn't come from autonomous economic factors, it also requires leadership, producing a system which is forward-looking, Atmanirbhar, looking at 2045 as a target date to become a developed country, become a much larger economy. So today, we are the 3rd largest consumer of oil. We are the 3rd largest LPG consumer, 4th largest LNG importer, 4th largest refiner, 4th largest automobile market, and I could go on. But within that matrix, things are changing. I think our biofuels, which I started off and then digressed, we are now very close to 20%. Now I might startle you, how has he jumped from 12% to 20%? Very simple. You know, when you are stuck at 1.4%, which we were in 2014, then 5% seemed impossible. But after 2014, the Honorable Prime Minister, with a lot of consultation and thought, put together a system, ecosystem. That system produces the results because we have identified, diversified and identified the feed sources. When we reached 11.87%, it was a little bit of a hiccup, but now we are again, we found alternate sources. Our utilization of different alternate feeds is doing very well. We are selling E20 blended fuel at more than 5,000 even more plants every day. And I think the target of 20% is within sight. Today nobody is cribbing here about give us buyback guarantees, otherwise we won't produce ethanol. They are all happily producing ethanol and not worrying about buyback because they know that 20% mental inhibition which we had, as the automobile sector sold us a pup. They said if up to 20% you don't have to change any parts in a car, which is correct. But what they didn't tell us is that there were, E85 cars were being sold in Brazil by the same manufacturers. So we are very happy that that is again available here. We will have more ethanol, more biofuels, more biogas, compressed biogas. I don't think I have the time for that, but I think that's the general message. I think a good point to reflect on would be that different analysts and research groups have said that 25% of the growth in the global energy demand between 2020 and 2040 will come from India. I think that no one is contesting. Our consumers are not contesting it. Month on month, our energy demand increases in different sectors. Those who are selling energy, those who are producing, E&P sector, no one is resisting. I think it's tomorrow we are announcing another bid round. We've taken the decisions domestically. We have about 3.5 million square kilometers, 3.5 million square kilometers of what is it called? Sedimentary basin. We just released another 1 million in that and we made it open for bidding. So we have also taken some revolutionary steps on making data available. I think that's all beginning to have an effect. Equally, all the other tweaking upstream, downstream is being done in order to produce that. I was misquoted the other day, so I know I have my friends in the press here, so I caught out the person who misquoted, but let me say, when I talked about the 2070 net zero, I never said it's too far. I never said that. I said that India has a tradition. When we set a target, we don't set unrealistic targets. So if we had set a target for 2050, and the energy crisis had taken place, we wouldn't have said this target is no longer available, now let's go back to coal. This is what some countries did. What I said was that the 2070 net zero target was set taking everything into account, but it is my expectation that we can meet the net zero much before 2070. Why did I do that? Because all the major contributors to setting the target, their individual targets are much closer. And I repeat, IOCL has a target of 2046, ONGC 2038, GAIL 2040, BPCL 2040, HPCL 2040, Oil 2040, EIL 2035. Now if these are your oil majors and they've got targets 20 years, 25 years earlier, it provides you that cushion. And what I see around always, I also have the privilege of being Minister for Housing and Urban Affairs, and I can see the changes in the use of construction technology. The Prime Minister devoted an entire year to Global Housing Technology Challenge Year, where 53 of the global major housing companies came and demonstrated their technologies. We shortlisted those technologies. We built 6 lighthouse projects. One of them was inaugurated by the Prime Minister recently. 1,000 units in 1 year using the cutting edge technologies which are completely green. So all that is happening. I have a feeling that as we go along, we recently unveiled a prototype of the world's first BS6 Stage 2 electrified flex fuel vehicle that has both a flex fuel engine and an electric powertrain. I want to say to my friends in KPMG that as you proceed, you will see that the government not only has the ecosystem, but the government provides equal, if not more, encouragement to encouraging research, startups in all these sectors. And I did note when I was downstairs, was it upstairs? Upstairs, okay. Looking at some of that, and many of those startups have not only a replicability, or they would find great receptivity in the urban sector in which I deal with. In fact, there was a solution there which was both wind and solar. And I didn't want to, because it was a slightly compressed time frame. But you know, for a country that is building, according to a McKinsey report, between 700 and 900 million square meters of urban space every year till 2030, which is the equivalent of a Chicago, it's absolutely necessary that you do things in a green and ecologically sustainable way. So I'm very, very happy that you have devoted today's section. I still come back to my favorite subject, which is that whatever we do on biofuels, we will go to 20%, we will go beyond that, compressed biogas. But really the future lies in green hydrogen. Why? Because to get a fuel on that scale, you use, I think the biofuels, compressed biogas has also got a great future. Maybe I should say biofuels, compressed biogas, biomass in conjunction with green hydrogen initially, and then finally green hydrogen. What you need to do is to bring the cost of production of green hydrogen down. All my oil companies will tell me it's going to take so much time, so much time. I'm happy to provide a dissenting voice. I think green hydrogen will get bigger boost faster and much faster than we think. Because I believe, at least in India, when change comes, there is an expression in our language, kya kehte hain, bhed chal. You know, then once things happen, then there is a herd, this thing to go forward. And I think we are on the switch. And I never get too worried about, spiraling fuel prices, because in many ways that acts as the biggest boost for that. But therefore, when I talk about prices and the correlationship with transition, I think there's a very interesting relationship there, and it's something that we must acknowledge more. But I think since we lived through interesting times, interesting, the word here being a euphemism for slightly worrying, or if I may use a harsher thing, time, till we come back to normal forms of economic activity, which looked very good post-COVID, all our figures were up, and then there come other uncertainties. But as somebody who's always bullish on optimism, I think this too shall pass. So thank you very much.
So, Honorable Ministers were asked to take a couple of questions. So, anybody first hand up?
Just tell them to identify themselves.
Yes. Please identify yourself when you ask a question. That's a little strange. But if I can, Honorable Minister.
How do you interpret this? Disagreement of total agreement?
Yeah, I would say that, given what we have had over the last 1.5 days and hearing since the morning also in the panels, I think it's pretty much agreement.
Agreement?
It's pretty much agreement. So I can't say any other way.
No, it's all right. It's all right. You want to put a positive concept. No, I'm always happy to be questioned. If somebody says that anything that's been said maybe is over-interpreted, or, maybe one is reading too much into a situation. Look, I have a problem with all my experts, including the young man sitting there and others. Every time they come and say, well, this is happening, this is going to result in that. I said, yeah, maybe, maybe not. But I think the energy sector today, Anish, presents itself as one of the most fascinating challenges in today's global economic scenario. I would just say that now. You can ask me whatever you like.
Sure. No, okay, there's a hand behind. Identify yourself, James.
Anish, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, Minister. So I'm James Mackay. I'm the chair of KPMG's Global Hydrogen Network, and you obviously just referred to the role that green hydrogen could play in the future. And I just want to get your opinion on the important role that India could play in developing the key supply chains of green hydrogen assets over that period as well, because I think that's an area, the supply chain, is where we're seeing real difficulty, particularly in the UK and Europe. So really keen to hear your views on that.
I'm not entirely sure I got it, but I think what I understood is you asked about India playing a role in a hydrogen value chain, including globally. I think it's a brilliant question, and I think it's happening. 2 points that I want to make. One is, if you look at the investments which are coming from outside into green hydrogen work in India, I think that investment has already resulted in green ammonia being sold by that particular commercial entity to Uniper in Germany, green ammonia being sent to Singapore for their new General Electric power plant which is coming up. So that's already happening. Will that be scaled up? Sir, my response would be yes, and massively. Why do I say that it will be scaled up massively? Because I see great potential in the whole green hydrogen system. Why? Fundamentally because gases don't lend themselves to transportation, and so with green hydrogen. So if anybody were to sell me a line that you could make green hydrogen in some place, just hypothetically, I don't mean it like that, say Western Australia and the desert there, they don't need it because they've got so much of natural gas themselves, Australia, and they would not be able to use it. So fundamentally, green hydrogen lends itself for success where there is demand locally, without adding the cost of transportation, because you can't transport the gas. Secondly, there is capacity to produce, and thirdly, there's consumption. And I think India fits into that. How many other countries fit into that? I think the United States is already a pioneer. I think 40% of the green hydrogen manufactured, Rasal, somebody told me, was in Houston, Texas. Well, it's produced there, and so my answer to your question is a positive yes, yes.
Right. Trevor. Mic there, please. Just hand the mic over if you could, somebody.
Can you hear me? Minister, great to listen to your presentation. My name's Trevor Hart, and I'm Global Leader for Mining and KPMG. We've had some great conversations over the last 2 days about the availability of critical minerals globally and the reliance on those going forward to enable the energy transition. For India, what does that mean to you, and how big is the challenge, do you think, from an Indian perspective, and how do you start thinking about the solutions to that?
If your question is, what are we doing about critical minerals, I think we are we're undertaking all the policy measures required in order to encourage and boost that. In fact, we have already seen some evidence of that, taking it out of some lists, making the private sector involved in that more thing. So I think some big things are happening, and more will be seen as we go along. Because I think the need for those critical minerals is more acknowledged today than ever before. So I would not go into details because I'm not the minister in charge, but I'm sure that you will be seeing announcements to that effect in the public domain.
So, Minister, if I can do a follow-on question on that, but more from your background as a career diplomat for 39 years, as you mentioned. Now, the critical minerals are found in places which are, sometimes difficult, like DRC kind of places, or say Latin America, which are quite far, and some of the nations which are now controlling, have a stranglehold, have made pretty strong advances in those regions. Is there something which we ought to be doing as India?
I wouldn't worry too much about these things. You're often told, when I'm not going into any specific sector, country, no, this is very difficult, it can't be done because country X has already bought the next 20 years, 30 years, stock, etc. They made it. Doesn't work like that. When I was posted as ambassador to Brazil, and that is the year 2006 beginning, I was told, you're about 10 years late. The one particular country, I don't like naming countries because of my experience, they've already bought off all the assets. That's the public narrative. I don't know where it comes from. When I went there, I saw that, we today have $4 billion of investment there. I don't think that particular country has anything like that. So these things are not correct. What we've got to do is two things. I think take the policy decisions which I think are being taken in order to ensure that critical minerals are viewed as strategic assets required in order to, whether it's electric vehicles or whatever energy source you're going into, and you have the policies in order for your own private sector to access them. That is one. But more than that, even if it is held outside, I mean, why would anybody, put in what you call captive investment there and not be using it? If they're using it, well and good. I don't mind. I mean, the question on green hydrogen, there's so much one can say in these things. One particular country has brought in what is called an Inflation Reduction Act, which is a lot of state funding going into that sector. So somebody said, aren't you tempted to call it a subsidy? I said, I used to chair the subsidies committee in 1982 or something like that, many years ago, of the GATT. Look, if green hydrogen production gets a boost, either through the Inflation Reduction Act or from actions by, let's say, the Europeans or so and so, that subsidy part of it can be dealt later. But I would expect that Indian companies will also participate and, take advantage of that boost that green hydrogen is going to get. Or rather, all hydrogen. Green hydrogen is because I'm one of those who says that, don't get derailed by an intermediary stage. It's better to go for, wait a little longer and go for green hydrogen totally, because then you are, 100% there.
Okay, maybe one last question there. I know, okay, somebody there, then we'll take those two. So we'll go here and then we'll go to you, Anvesha. Just the mic here, please, with the gentleman with the green shirt.
It's Saurav from Technip Energies. So my question to you is on what role do you think will blue hydrogen play as an enabler in green hydrogen economy? Because we need to increase our consumption, in-house consumption, to be a leader in hydrogen sector.
I think this is something on which you can have a debate, blue hydrogen, grey hydrogen, etc. It's up to that. But I think my view is that as government, as policy, as insofar as, we have a cabinet decision to facilitate green hydrogen, because PM at, I think, 15th August 2021, he said we're going to take this up in mission mode. Then now we've got this cabinet decision on, I think, 19,700 rupees for electrolyzer manufacture to be taken up through the PLI scheme. We also have, I think, a cabinet decision which 6 different parts, ministries will deal with it. I don't want to get involved in that. I would think that go for green hydrogen straight away. But you have a very relevant question, what role they would play, how it would happen. But I think since we are making this very bold transitioning, we should go for green hydrogen all the way.
I mean, in some sense, that's where India's natural advantages lies. So the market will go wherever it has to go. We have to push what is naturally to our advantage.
I have always believed in the magic of the marketplace, but nowhere in the world does the magic of the marketplace operate on its own. The market looks to encouragement. I mean, yesterday I saw a report, the market is saying, when is the government going to make use of green hydrogen mandatory in some area? So, if you look at the entire history of science, it is because in a particular context, sometimes in the post-war context, governments have stepped in, and that has given some. So the market is a very important part, but the market also needs a guiding,
Signals.
supporting hand.
Yes, signals, absolutely. Anvesha, last question from you. I know that Honorable Minister's time is short here, so that's why.
Hello. Yeah. Sorry, very quickly. I'm Anvesha Thakkar, partner KPMG and lead for clean energy for KPMG. So we're working as KPMG with, I would say, states which together constitute 50% of the green hydrogen targets that the country has undertaken for itself by 2030. We've been analyzing on the cost front. States are coming up with incentives which we are helping them with. But we do believe that demand side, just as you said, mandates or any demand side facilitation would also be very critical. So just wanted your views on what do you think can be done on the demand side? Thank you.
See, I see no difficulty there. It's a very simple answer. One doesn't mandate anything unless you have availability. So as you see that, in some ways it's like the electric vehicle production and charging station. I've been in this ministry now for 2 years, 4 months or so. When I started off, I was told, well, electric vehicles, but there are no charging stations. So when you talk to the charging station guys, they will tell you, we are going to set up charging stations, but they're not going to be viable till there are electric cars to be charged. So the thing happens simultaneously. My OMCs in one go told me one day, I sat them down, and they said, we are setting up 22,000 charging stations, which means they already have retail bunks. By the way, how many people go to petrol filling every year? 60 million. 60 million people go to the petrol station bunk every day in India to fill up. So that gives you an idea of the... So if 22,000 of them have charging stations, which is still only 1/4, but that is a starting point. Then every urban local body is setting up. So what has happened is, now you have in a very happy situation. You've got charging stations, and the new cars which are coming out are electric vehicles. Many of them, a large percentage of them. So equally in this area, I think the mandates will come. I think, there is some, it's not divine providence, but now people are actually beginning to say, 6 months ago I was told, mission mode, what have you guys done? So nobody's asking that question anymore. By the way, I take a 1 monthly or 6 weekly meeting to review green hydrogen progress insofar as my ministry is concerned. And I can tell you it has not just the OMCs, it has the private sector also. And it's buzzing with activity. So that will come. Again, why doesn't it come immediately? You have to be careful. Because if you make it mandatory and you don't have the availability, then you are adding to cost in a manner which you will not be happy about. But once you have availability, you can add it, people can cushion it, so it will work even faster. Thank
you, Minister. So, EST, any closing words from you and maybe a thank you from your side too?
Mr. Puri, it's more than a delight. It's fascinating to hear you. And personally, as well as on behalf of KPMG, I'd like to thank you. We will draw upon your inspiration, your guidance on what we can do differently, timing-wise as well as expanse-wise. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't know about guidance, but you can always count on my support. So thank you.
thank you, Honorable Minister. If you're wondering what that is on, it is about pivoting, India pivoting to leadership on the supply chain and in manufacturing opportunity in renewables. So very happy and thankful that Honorable Minister could launch it for us.
I'll request all of you to please settle down. We're not taking a break. We'll start with the next session right away.